Good morning, and welcome to the Entrepreneurial Journey. I am. This is an exciting show today, and you know what? I'm gonna let you guys do your own introductions today because we've done this before. But on the entrepreneurial journey, I think one of the biggest things is being able to give back. And today we're with Dawson Place. And I had to learn how to say that actually because I used to say Dawson's Place, and I kept getting corrected that I was saying it wrong and I was spelling it wrong. But this is an amazing organization, and many times when we talk about where does TransBlue give, how does Triv give, look, we always use Dawson Place as an example because I think it has such a profound and huge impact on our local communities. So I'll let you guys do your introductions here. So I'll kick it off. Go ahead.
Sure. My name is Matt McLaughlin, and I am the Director of Development at Dawson Place. That just means I'm a professional fundraiser, and that's kind of how I met up with the Davids here.
Dave.
But Dawson Place is a really special place, as David was saying. We exist because every child abuse victim deserves safety, justice, and healing. Most people in the world can get on board with that. That's what we do. We are a child advocacy center, and that means we are a single location that brings together all the different disciplines that our society has created to help families that are in crisis from child abuse. Mm-hmm. So in one building, it's a one-stop shop for all the services that you might need. And all the services will provide safety, justice, and healing for the kids and the families that come to us.
Awesome.
And we'll get into more of the what after I let David introduce himself as well.
My name is David Lundquist, and I am the Executive Director of Enbridge, which is the giving arm of Evergreen Brands and specifically TransBlue. And we have about 15 or 16 different organizations that we call noble causes. Because we believe that they do a noble work in our world. They do a work that really changes the world, thus the name of this podcast, Change the World. And Dawson Place is one that actually Dave was giving to before I started about 4 years ago with Enbridge. And I love it because it really touches on, the weakest and the most vulnerable of our society and really changes their lives. So we are super excited to be able to have Matt here and to be able to highlight Dawson Place and be able to talk about some of the things that are coming up as well.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, both of you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. And I will have to say, I made a really good decision by letting you do your own introductions because you did way better than I was going to do on both of them. So that really made me feel good. Last time we spoke, I learned something, and it was something that I didn't know before. And I always, and it resonates with me. It always touches my heart. It always touches my soul even. And, I always thought, man, the kids who go to Dawson Place, because these are, sexually abused kids, physically abused kids, violently abused kids. I was always like, oh man, it's so tough for them to be there. Oh man, what a hard stroke in life you've been given. Just unlucky. Mm-hmm. And you said, Dave, the truth of the matter is the ones who get to Dawson Place are the lucky ones.
Mm-hmm. They're
the ones who don't make it in are the unlucky ones.
Absolutely.
And I was reading a story, and a close friend of mine, I won't share their name, but a very, very close friend of mine sent me a story, and they said, you have to read this story. And I said, okay. And I got this story in text messages, and they said, I can't send you the author and I can't send you where it's from because it's not published, but you need to read it. And it was a story about boys and girls growing up on an Indian tribe. And I won't say the Indian tribe, but it's here in Washington. And there was a group of 5 boys who were out playing in the woods, and an older boy, and in the story, he's called the monster. Mm-hmm. And he grabs the boys, he gets the boys, tricks them that they're going to play a game, gets them into an abandoned trailer, has the door locked on the inside, takes one into the bedroom, and begins that process of, molestation. Mm-hmm. Another boy breaks out a window, escapes through the outside, lets the other boys out. The monster chases them out. They bring it up on the Indian reservation. Nothing ever happens to the monster, as he's called in the story. The kids are never believed, and the one who was in the room, just identify him by the name of Jem, the same name of the guy in To Kill a Mockingbird, and Jem runs out as well. And the truth of the matter is that monster who grabbed those boys, the story goes on, it's a long story, ends up becoming a serial killer and kills many multitudes of people. And he's in prison for life. And during that time, they find Jem's body, and Jem has been dead for maybe a year and a half. And he dies on this Indian reservation. And the guy who's telling the story just goes through what it's like to grow up on the Indian reservation, what it's like to be captured by, captured by a monster and then put in that situation. And then what happened to the friend who got abused, who was never really right again, who was never really able to recover, who was never able to connect with his family. In fact, his family didn't even know for a year and a half that he had passed because he led this nomad life. And this friend tells me, and I say, okay, I read it. And he says, now I want to tell you about my life. And he tells me this story about how he's just a little boy and he gets captured in the woods. And the same thing happens. And it's just like, oh my gosh, and it's so painstaking. And on this entrepreneurial journey, like as an owner of a business, as like if your business is in Seattle or Massachusetts or Florida or Texas or anywhere, and nobody knows you're in your community, if you're not helping a Dawson Place, if you're not helping change the world, there's really no point in being in business. Because as your business grows, you make significant funds, you make significant money, and being able to help those kids, those gems, or like this friend of mine who have never had a Dawson Place, but they carry this massive trauma. And my friend says, that's why my life is so destroyed, because I just can't get over it. And they're in their 40s. And so what you shared with me was the ones who make it to Dawson Place are the lucky ones.
Sure.
Yes. And that is the case. Dawson Place has been around for 17 years. So what a child advocacy center is, Dawson Place owns this building downtown Everett in Snohomish County, Washington. In the building, we lease space out to 5 other agencies. This includes law enforcement, the Snohomish County Sheriff, and Prosecuting Attorney's Office. They have their Special Investigation Unit and Special Assault Unit upstairs in our building. And they specifically work on cases, crimes against children, and sexual assault cases. Also in the building, we have Child Protective Services. Last year, out of the 1,100 kids that we served, about 10% of them were referred to us by Child Protective Services, right? But we also have downstairs, we have the healing portion of things. We've got therapists that work for a North Puget Sound regional nonprofit, Compass Health. So there are 12 therapists on staff going all day long from 8 in the morning until 6:30 at night. Last year, they gave almost 5,000 hours of free therapy to child abuse victims and their non-offending family members. Right? And then we also work with Providence Intervention Center for Assault and Abuse. And they provide victim advocates. They provide nurses. We don't have beds, but we do provide forensic medical exams and child forensic interviews on site.
So the power of Dawson Place is really that you bring all of these specialties together.
That's right.
So that when a child and a family comes in, they don't need to go to 5 different places. They go to one place.
Exactly it. And, I don't know if you've ever been in a crisis, be it from child abuse or anything. When you're in crisis, it is really hard to figure out what to do, where to go, especially if you don't know the answers, right?
Yeah.
Well, once you get to Dawson Place, there's a victim advocate that will work with you to let you know this is the process. We're going to sign you up for a mental health assessment, and you can actually go see her later today or come back in tomorrow. we are going to introduce you to our child forensic interviewer so that we
Yeah.
can get the information that we need so that this person can't hurt other people, right? It's all in one place, and it really just takes a lot of the anxiety and the stress out of a terrible situation. And I will also say that it is a child-friendly place. We have a facility dog, 2 facility dogs that can be with the child and kind of just calm them down and give them
Sure.
comfort.
Wow.
Right? We have beautiful murals throughout the building wherever kids go.
Yeah.
And also everybody that works there is just devoted and dedicated to helping specifically kids that have been abused.
Yeah.
And it's a very unique service that they give to the community. And it takes a very special person. But we've got a building with almost 70 people in our building, and they are all providing these special services to kids and families who are experiencing the trauma of child abuse.
You shared a conviction rates, I think the last time we talked, which for me was astounding, that prior to Dawson Place coming in, the conviction rates were low, and now they were way up. Can you share some of the stats on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And Dawson Place is unique. You know, there are about 800 child advocacy centers in the country. They look differently. There's no one size fits all.
Sure.
Yeah.
But ours has everybody in one location, right? And so that's what was your question again? I got sidetracked.
It was just about conviction rates for child
Right. And
offenders.
so this is how it works. We've got the lead prosecuting attorney upstairs, and they get these cases that come through, and they decide which ones they can move forward to based on evidence and such. We have the same cases come through, and we have a sergeant that leads 8 different detectives. And he also chooses these things. And so now you've got this prosecuting attorney and these detectives, and they get paired up to start.
Yeah.
They're working hand in hand. They don't hold hands in the
Right.
building, but they work down the hall from each other,
Yeah.
and they work together from the very beginning.
Wow.
And so what this does is it makes it so that information is understood that you have as a prosecutor. Well, that gets shared also with the detective.
Sure.
Child Protective Services. Sometimes they have information because they've been to a location before a case was actually filed.
Sure.
And so the detective can go and say, look, when you were there on this date, who else was there?
Yeah.
Because this perpetrator said he wasn't, but you've got it in your notes that he was. So now you just
Build up.
used different information that's in the building to go and build that case.
Wow.
And so it absolutely does create for a stronger case.
Yeah.
And it absolutely does help them have more successful prosecutions and such. Really important to say, though, it doesn't matter if there's enough evidence to prosecute.
Right.
What matters is these kids make it to Dawson Place so that they get access to all the other services that we have.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right? We can't always prosecute, but we can always heal.
Yeah.
Always. And
That's
so
great.
that's just, it's a really beautiful place to work.
Yeah.
Terrible that it exists.
Yeah.
But child abuse has been in existence since the dawn of time.
Yeah.
Right? It's just now we know how better to deal with it. And you give a resilient kid, a little bit of support, a little bit of help, they bounce right back.
Yeah.
Kids are awesome.
Yeah.
They just need a little bit of help, and then
Yeah.
they need to be put in a safe environment.
And I think that part of what, at least from what I've seen, is that a child who goes through this traumatic event, there's a huge amount of guilt.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't even want to share it with their own parents. They don't want to share it with anybody. They harbor it inside.
Yeah.
And getting them to talk about that, getting them to be able to release that is a huge thing. And you have the annual gala coming up November 9th. And this is a great event. And I've heard Antoine Fisher speak there.
In the
Great
past,
story,
yeah.
right? That's
Oh, yeah.
the movie that Denzel Washington was in, Antoine Fisher, and his real life story about the abuse, but also the abuse that happens 6, 7, 8, 9, but they carry it with them for years and years, and they never are able to talk about it. And so what happens when they come to Dawson Place, or it's found out, or they do speak up, they're able to share. They go through the examinations, but they're able to work with these specialists. You mentioned these 12 specialists. Can you talk a little bit about that process and how they really how the healing starts and how they're able to move on in life from those traumatic experiences?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not a therapist, but in general, what they do is they have an assessment with this child, and they use an evidence-based therapy that has decades of research, and it's very effective. So what they do is they find markers, and they find out what level a child is as anxiety-wise, sleep-wise. What are these issues? Sure. Are there triggers? Sure. We had a kid that came in, and he couldn't be in the fish room because there's a Nemo swimming around in the fish, and I guess Little Nemo was on, or Finding Nemo was on when he was being assaulted, right? And so these are triggers and things. So the therapist will go and they'll find these things, and then they'll teach the child how to certain skills, slow breathing, calming yourself down. They'll teach a child, this is why this is a trigger. You need to be prepared for when these triggers happen. There are all sorts of little steps and things. And some kids, they come in for 1 week, a month, weekly for a month, and that's good. Other kids, they come for years. Yeah. And it all depends on the child and their journey back to a healthy life.
So does Dawson Place also, I would assume, work with families as well? Because part of that child's
Absolutely.
Healing is with, the family members. And I'm sure there are a lot of trauma that moms and dads go through too.
This is told to me often. The more traumatized individual in the family is the parent who has all this anger on themselves for allowing this to happen. Sure. The children, sometimes they're less traumatized than the actual parent. So we actually have group meetings for parents of victims.
Awesome.
Right? We all of our services are extended to non-offending family members. All of our services are provided with no out-of-pocket expenses. Yeah. Right? So it's all free. Once you get there, we will take care of everything.
That's amazing that it's free as well.
Yeah.
So they don't have to pay to get healing.
There's nothing in the way except your ability to speak up and say, I need help.
Wow.
And once that happens, and this is a big part of what we're doing here today, is Dawson Place has a major role in the prevention of child abuse, but we can't go out and stop it.
Yeah.
People are ashamed of it. People carry that guilt because our society says you can't talk about this thing. It's so taboo. And that's starting to change. People are starting to recognize that we need to talk about this and bring this out in the open so those that need help can get help. And also so that those that are predators on our children, we recognize them and get them put away so that they can't harm more kids.
I mean, in Dave's story, had that perpetrator been found out, had there been a Dawson Place for those children, could have stopped the cycle of violence. And just how many families went through the grief because there was nobody there to be able to stop that cycle of violence.
Or families hide it because they don't want other people to know.
The shame.
Right.
Yeah. Shame
well,
is
then
so
now
huge.
that kid's not getting the help that they need, you know? So, this reminds me, when I first started, I've been working at Dawson Place for 10 years.
Yeah.
When I first started working there, I was going on a tour with some ladies from a local church. They just wanted to come learn more about Dawson Place. And at the end of the tour, one of these ladies, probably in her 60s or 70s, started to almost cry. And she just says, I wish Dawson Place existed when I was a little girl.
Wow.
And her friend says, what kind of help did you get? And she looked at her friend and says, oh, I've never told anybody.
Wow.
She had never spoken about this, carried it by herself her entire life.
Their entire life.
Yes, until that moment walking through Dawson Place and she felt safe to where she could open up about this. Yeah. Now, some people can carry that sort of a burden and they can function all right. Other people have that sort of burden and they find ways to cope with it. Sometimes drugs and alcohol, promiscuity. These are things that people say, oh, that's the issue. And often that's not the issue. The underlying issue is that they've got this trauma that they don't know how to deal with. Sure. Yeah. They get to Dawson Place and they learn how to cope with that trauma. And they learn that, look, this happened. This is always going to be part of my life, but it's not going to define how I'm going to move forward in my life.
And they're not alone. You know, that's a huge thing. They're not alone. Like, it's happened to somebody else. And there's a huge power, you know, in knowing that.
Yeah. So one of the things that we do have in one of our medical exam rooms is there's a whole bunch of sticky hands all on the roof. Because when a child comes in, and they're done with their exam, they get to throw one up there. And when kids come in, you say, we're not alone. When kids come in and they look up and they ask, what are all those sticky hands up there? The nurse gets to tell them, oh, those are from kids just like you. They left them up there to let you know that you're going to be okay. You're at the right place. We're going to get help for you. And they look up that and they see thousands of sticky hands on the roof, and all of a sudden they have this realization. Sometimes they're 5 or 6 years old, right? And they're like, I don't know what's going on, but I opened my mouth and now mom's crying all the time. Dad's kicked out of the house and I don't know why, but it's my fault. And now they're looking up and they're saying, oh, I'm not alone. This is something, and I'm in the right place. So
Powerful.
Yeah.
So TransBlue has been a champion sponsor for now, I think 5 or 6 years, something like that. Tell us about the gala that's coming up, the luncheon, who the guest speaker is, what's happening there.
Forgot the name of the guest speaker. But
It's somebody like Antoine Fisher, though.
Somebody really
It's going to be somebody really good.
It's a policeman.
Okay.
I think he's from Chicago or back Midwest or East. But it'll be a very engaging story. His story will be very engaging. We also have so it's a luncheon. It is on Thursday, November 9th, downtown Everett. It's at the conference center by the Angel of the Winds arena where they play hockey and basketball and stuff. Last year, we had about 400 people there, people coming and getting used to going out again in public. This year, we're expecting about 600. Before the pandemic, we had near 800. We had that place jam-packed. It's really important for multiple reasons. Like I said, there's 70 people in the building at Dawson Place. They get to show up and they get recognized. They have the community standing there, and the police officers, they'll stand up and the community will just shower them with praise. And the nurses and the advocates, they'll stand up, the therapists, and they get showered with praise. And you forget sometimes that when you do this every day, sometimes it starts to build up, and you forget how important the work that you're doing is. Same with most any work, right? Well, during this day, we get to celebrate that Dawson Place exists, and we're part of something that is so much bigger than any one of us. And when you see all those professionals standing there, and then community members like TransBlue who are supporting this whole endeavor, when you see all those people coming together for these kids, I mean, it is a special, powerful moment.
It is.
Yeah. So I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to it.
So can people online that want to come, can they?
Absolutely. So it's a free event.
Okay.
You just have to RSVP and decide if you want a chicken salad or a vegetarian meal. And that's about it. Once you show up, it's 1 hour, so it's not too big of a time commitment. And you're going to hear some amazing things, and it might be hard to hear some of them sometimes.
Yeah, it is.
But we've got a couple of different beneficiaries who have been through Dawson Place, and they look forward to sharing how important and how pivotal that moment that is in their lives. And they're to the point that they want to share it with hundreds of people. I mean, that takes a lot of courage and bravery, but it's also just it's so exciting, and it's something that I just love. I just love this event because you do get a stronger feeling of the actual people that are involved. Like we're talking 3 or 4 new kids every day that we're seeing.
Wow.
Monday through Friday, right?
Wow.
I mean, that's a lot of kids that are going through there.
Wow.
But when you start to tease out 1 or 2 and say, look, this is my story, and this is where I was before I came to Dawson Place, and this is what I'm doing now. And it's just special. It's sweet. And it just makes me so happy that I work there, but also that I work in a community that recognizes how valuable and how beautiful Dawson Place is and important to the community.
Yeah, that's awesome. Ralph, can you throw the website up on the live stream? So one of the things I think that is really important is just in recognizing Dawson Place and in recognizing what happens. I was at a conference last week, EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, and it was EO Alchemy, which is, all of the EO entrepreneur chapters in the West Coast, people from LA, Arizona, Oregon, Washington, whatever. And I don't know, maybe there's 1,000, 1,500 people at this event. And EO is one type of, entrepreneurs group. There's YPO and there's Vistage. There's many different types, but all have about the same amount of people. And you think about that, the minimum qualification for a business to be a part of EO is $1 million in revenue. On this podcast, we talk about the entrepreneurial journey. We talk about, what does it take to make $1 million bucks? If you think about it, at this conference that I was at last Thursday, Friday, Saturday, there's 1,500 millionaires that are sitting there. These are people in business, but you also look at, what is the salary, at Amazon? If you graduated Wharton School of Business, what is your starting salary? $350,000, $400,000. So it's not just business owners, but it's very, very successful dollars. What does a project manager, start at Amazon? The numbers I've heard, Microsoft, $250,000, $300,000 a year. Like these are very heavy salaries. And what I always like to say when I share about Dawson Place is, do you have kids? And most people, yeah. Do you have nieces, nephews? Yeah. We all have kids in our life. Now close your eyes and imagine those kids. Now take a second and imagine some kind of damage happening to those kids. What is that worth to you to help prevent that? Mm-hmm. Because it doesn't matter if it's $5 or $5,000, but people need a helping hand. Mm-hmm. And I can think of no better person in the world to help than a 4-year-old girl who walks in who's just been abused by an uncle, or an 8-year-old who's been carrying this burden around for several years. Like, so when you think of Dawson Place, when you think of this gala event, this is a huge event in Everett, Washington. It's a great event to be able to sign up for. It's a great event to be able to come hear the stories, but more importantly, being able to donate funds to the organization so that you can act when crisis happens, so that you can, really be there. And being an entrepreneur, I think, as an entrepreneur grows their business and as they become successful, it's amazing to have purpose in your business, to say, hey, we give to this amazing place. We're lending a helping hand. It doesn't matter what that dollar amount is, but, we've got a lot of people in snowplow industry that, are in our podcast. Who are you helping? Who are you touching? What hand are you reaching out and grabbing that's in the dark and helping pull them up? It doesn't matter what you're in, but take a little bit of that time, take a little bit of that money and give it to an organization that really helps people. I think the number is roughly 1,100 kids who are helped every single year at Dawson Place. And that's only a fraction of the abused children in that particular county. So dig deep, take what you've learned, take the blessings that you've had in life, and really reach out and help change the world. And that's what TransBlue, that's what is all about. That's what Enbridge is all about. That's why we love Dawson Place, because there is significant impact in people's lives. Yeah. And the ones that are at Dawson's Place, they are the lucky ones. Mm-hmm. And you are giving that child an opportunity to live a life. And I think that that's an amazing thing. So we hope that as many people will join. We've got the website on the call here, so that you can check that out, log in, register for the event, or donate to the event. It's an amazing thing to be able to do. Just a couple of shout outs. Mike Burns says, one of our listeners says, this is incredible. Thanks, Mike, for joining in. That's fantastic. And Masadur Rahim, hopefully I pronounced that right. I apologize if I didn't. CEO of FBM Technologies is on our call this morning, giving us a little like there. So thanks for participating in the call. Thanks for shouting out. What would you both like to leave us with? I'll start with Matt and then end with Dave. And what final thoughts do you have for us today?
Sure. First of all, I do appreciate that TransBlue isn't just a check writer. TransBlue, they came and go on a tour. They meet the people that are providing the services. They want to understand how they can improve lives. And then once they recognize and understand the value of it, then they're all in as far as supporting an event that's going to help raise a lot of money to continue to help more and more kids. I would also say that a child advocacy center, there are 800 of them across the country, so there's one in your community, right? Look it up and see what kind of support they need. There's all shapes and sizes, but there's absolutely one in your community. Yeah. Finally, I would just say that the ability of a successful business to make the community that they're in better is so foundational to TransBlue and so important to your community. So I mean, it doesn't have to be a child advocacy center, but find something that moves you and then become a part of it, become a part of that cause.
Yeah.
It is really, it is how our world becomes a better place. It is how we change the world.
Amen.
So I just encourage you to take a little bit of extra time away from your work and see how you can help others in your community.
There are some other sponsors too. I think Gamut 360 or 360
Absolutely.
Gamut
We've got a lot of
is a
sponsors.
sponsor.
Yep.
They do construction services in Everett. They've been a big sponsor for a long time. Who else? Who are some of the other sponsors? If you can think of
sure,
any?
Beresford Booth is a law firm. I mean, we've got a lot of lawyers in our building.
Yeah.
Right, but they're public prosecutors.
Yeah.
But they recognize the importance of what we're doing, and they support us heavily. They have for a long
Amazing
time.
law firm.
Yep. Little Bipsy Collections. They sell high class clothes for babies and toddlers and stuff.
Awesome.
They're out of Edmonds, and they have been supporting us for years.
Yeah.
As well. So it is wonderful to have not just the 70 people from our Child Advocacy Center, but leaders in our community, right? Pillars in our community stepping forward. And what happens because of TransBlue and Little Bipsy and these other sponsors is the people, the individuals that are there, when they give up their gold to support our cause, every single dollar that they give goes directly to our operations and programs. All the event expenses, that free salad that you ate, that's getting paid for by our partners in the community. And so it's really cool that when you're there, if you're going to give $100, $500, $10,000, whatever it might be, that's going directly into those services for those kids and those families.
Yeah. Even $25 a month.
It is huge.
Is amazing. And you know what? There's like 4 or 5 weeks in a month. And you know what? It's funny. I was at my kids' ice skating thing on Sunday, and we went to get a hot chocolate, and I went to the hot chocolate stand, and the hot chocolate was $7. I was like, oh, are you kidding me? And so it's like $28 for hot chocolates. You know what? But that same amount of money, what you spend on hot chocolate, could easily go to Dawson Place at $25 a month. So no matter where you're at in the spectrum of life, like there's always an opportunity to just put it on a debit card and say, hey, I'm all in for, $5 a week.
We do.
And it
we
makes
get those.
a huge
Makes
donation.
It's great.
If 100 people are doing $25 a month, that adds up, doesn't it?
It is.
If 500 are, that adds up to more, doesn't it?
It does.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Matt, I'll just kind of conclude by saying thank you. Thank you for your service to our community. Thank you. Please share our gratitude to the team at Dawson Place.
I will.
As far as Enbridge is concerned, I am so thankful that, I'm a part of a great company with Dave that takes responsibility of giving back and supporting our community like it does. I think it's the best thing you can do as a business owner, because it doesn't just stay the corollary benefits within your business of having employees that know that you are doing good and that you're not all just about yourself is great. So again, thank you, Dave, for being so generous, and thank you, Matt, for just all of the work you do. I love being a part of this.
It's all about changing the world. And looks like Gregory Carlson says, "Great to see you, Pastor Dave."
Great.
So it looks like
Nice
you've
to see
got
you.
looks like you've got a fan
base.
You've got a fan on the show here. Look at that. Look at that. So
Love
you're
it.
doing something right.
Love it.
Thanks for joining in on the show. Listen, if you liked this show, give us a like, give us a share on your social channel, follow us, hang out with us. We'll be back here 9:15 Pacific Standard Time next week. And we're going to have some great content, great show next week. So definitely join in. But take a minute, Dawson Place. You can see it, dawsonplace.org. It's on the screen in front of you. Take a minute, take a couple of bucks, even if it's just coffee money, and donate to this amazing organization. Thank you all for being on the show. It's been a great
Thanks, Dave.
morning. Thank you so much. And
I
we'll see you next
appreciate
week.
the opportunity. Thank you, everyone.